This is Kits and Wagers. I'm Adam Zdroik, joined by Chris Owen to talk Game Week 15 in the Premier League. We've had no rest. We have not slept since last Thursday's show. We've been waiting impatiently to see our bets lose, but we don't miss a game week. Chris, we had some losses last week, but I think we projected the Newcastle-Manchester United match perfectly. So that's what I'll lead the show with. Congrats on getting that Newcastle under 2.5 goals bet. Congrats to me on getting the Newcastle money line bet. We're amazing.
We did call that, but we missed a couple other ones. We're back at it. That's all I can say.
Jamie Vardy's back at it, according to Chris's kit there.
Yeah, I got rocking Leicester City here today as they're currently sitting top of the table. I think by a point in the championship. So nothing really more to note than that. It is a Monday evening. We are back after a short turnaround. We're going to talk about a couple games.
I could have sworn Jamie Vardy had more goals this season, but he's only on 6. So 888 minutes, 9 starts, 18 appearances. Man, he's still going.
Still getting going for boxes. You love to see it.
Did not play this past weekend. So maybe he's feeling not too good. Too many games.
In future years. My kid's going to want this jersey someday.
You might. I mean, Leicester, they're going to be back in the Premier League, so
yeah,
looking good for them. But we got Premier League. We got some different matchups. We have these, I don't know if they're weird games, but the biggest favorites of Game Week 15 are Liverpool at Sheffield United and Arsenal at Luton Town. We're not talking about either one of those, but you don't usually see the biggest favorites. Even Manchester City are actually the third biggest favorite, and they're at Aston Villa. You just don't usually see all of the big favorites playing away from home. So that is one thing that's a little different in addition to it being midweek. My betting article that's going to be going up Tuesday morning, I look back at what's going on with all these games. There's been only 5 clean sheets in the last 2 game weeks, 8 clean sheets in the last 3 game weeks. There's been a lot of goals, and now the games are starting to pick up. So it kind of feels like maybe it's just going to continue to be high scoring as we get into Boxing Day here. But maybe we'll see what happens with our bets in terms of that. First one we're talking about, Fulham are home against Nottingham Forest. Fulham are plus 105 to win. Nottingham Forest are plus 275. The draw is plus 245. And you can get over 2.5 goals at plus 105, under 2.5 goals at minus 130. Fulham coming off that Liverpool result. Nottingham Forest coming off a pretty bland game against Everton. Steve Cooper talked up that game, talked it up about being under the lights. They had the standalone game. I think that was Saturday.
Yeah, it was a standalone game after the whatever 7 a.m. For me, it's 7 a.m. But
yeah,
it was a 9:30 Pacific start.
Yeah, so under the lights, home against Everton, they put up a dud. Gave up 1 goal to Everton, and they just really couldn't get it going. But now they're back at Fulham. Fulham, maybe a little surprising that they actually got 3 goals against Liverpool. Maybe 1 or 2 was maybe a little luckier because Alisson was not in net. But how are you reading this match here? Just 2 teams fighting, not in relegation, but near the bottom half of the table.
Yeah, I think if we go back to last season, I have to say Fulham finished ahead of Nottingham Forest by a couple places. Don't totally quote me there, but I think they did.
Fulham had a good first half of the season, I believe.
And then they kind of just like puttered in as the season ended. Nottingham Forest was probably like 16th or so, 17th. I can't quite remember.
Yeah, we can pull that up. We got RotoWire here. We got the table.
But anyways, Fulham. I mean, they're coming off of 2 interesting games here. That Wolves game was super interesting. Willian scored 2 goals from the spot, which, both of them kind of suspect. There was 3 penalty kicks in the second half of that game. They went up on Liverpool 3-2, 80 minutes or so left in the match. Of course, they came back. They probably feel a little hard done not to come away with at least a point there, which would have been a really quality result for them. But I think, Nottingham Forest kind of This game is like one of those games where I don't want to take any money line bets because it's kind of a disgusting match. Not a disgusting match, but maybe not as good as some of the other ones that we're going to see. You talked about in your preamble to the show how there's been a ton of goals, and there's been a ridiculous amount of goals in the league so far this season. I'm kind of going the other way on this. I looked at all the ones that were unders. For me, I got under 2.5 minus 130. A couple they played last season, kind of a mixed bag of what we had. Fulham beat Nottingham Forest in the first part of the season 3-2. That was away for Fulham, and then this same fixture last season at Craven Cottage was 2-0. I think, given it's a short week, I think we're probably not going to see the best attacking sides out of either team. And I like the under here at under 2.5. And a couple other bets I looked at, kind of along the same line as that. I really considered it was between two bets for me to know on both teams to score is plus 100. I just figured there is an off chance that this could be a 1-1 or they both score. I mean, I'm not totally Tim Ream and was it Calvin Bassi?
Yeah.
Yeah. At center back gives me, I have reservations about it, asking them to keep a clean sheet, and same deal with Nottingham Forest. I think but I don't think that there's enough attacking quality. At least, Fulham's a little bit better from attack, but either side, I'm not like, all right, they're going to go and fill it up. So I'm on the under 2.5 here. This was candidly a tough game to find a good bet for in my mind, but maybe you feel differently.
No, I waited all day. I looked at some of the numbers earlier in the day, and the sportsbook where we get most of our numbers from DraftKings. I was waiting to put together a single game parlay here with like Fulham double chance with like an over on corners, but we're talking Monday. This game is on Wednesday, and the numbers just aren't there. And if I just want to bet corners, the numbers aren't really there either. You can get Fulham over 5.5 corners is minus 145. Over a race to 5 corners is minus 190. Even like a minus 0.75 corners in the first half is minus 125. Just numbers that I don't really want, especially from corner bets. And that's kind of why I was looking for a single game parlay there. Just throw in Fulham double chance. Instead, I'm going full on Fulham here. Plus 105, Fulham to win. They're at home. Nottingham Forest they were terrible away from home last season. Fulham also won both matchups last season between these teams. And just kind of how I started with Nottingham Forest. Not a ton of inspiring play. They had the win. They had the impressive win against Aston Villa 2-0. And then it's been kind of a little downhill from there. Their defense has kind of lost it a little bit. They've dealt with some illnesses, some injuries. Whoever started in the last game, Willy Boley got hurt in the last game. So it might be Felipe back in the lineup. Playing center back. They've been mixing around their fullbacks a little bit. Danilo also was I think he had like an illness and he missed the squad in the last game. And Chris Wood is Chris Wood kind of a thing. So away from home, Fulham. I think I took Fulham. I did take Fulham in my article, home against Wolverhampton a week ago to win. And it's just kind of the same idea here. Fulham at home. Game under the lights, Craven Cottage under the lights is one of the times I usually look to back them, at least against worse sides, and Nottingham Forest are a worse side. So let's just ride Fulham to win plus 105. Maybe it'll be, I don't know, maybe they do get a clean sheet. Maybe Tosin Adebayo takes over for Calvin Bassi in the back line kind of thing, something that I thought would have happened by now, but Tosin was injured for the first few months of the season. So maybe we'll get that 2-0. Maybe we can win this one. Either way, probably going to be something is going to be ugly here. Maybe it'll be 3-2 or maybe it'll be 2-0. It'll be ugly football either way you look at it.
Yeah, I quickly looked it up because I was curious, but you can do Fulham or tie and under 2.5 minus 115. So kind of that if you wanted to morph the bets a little bit, that could be interesting. But yeah, I actually had Fulham to win money line here at plus 105 as like a bet further down, but I ended up going under. So I think I don't have a ton of belief in Forest to pull out a result here.
Yeah, just away from home. Just not a team. Actually, I'm going to pull up their record on the road last season. I know it was really bad.
I mean,
Let's just pull this up.
Even currently, they're pretty poor away from home. The 7 matches away, they have 1 win, 1 draw, 5 losses. They scored 6 goals and given up 13 goals. So like
basically the same as last season.
Yeah, I don't know what 2022 would have been.
They were 1 win, 5 draws, 13 losses last season. 11 goals scored, 44 allowed. They were the worst. They had a negative 33 goal differential last season away from home, and kind of the same numbers this year.
Yeah, essentially the same thing.
I think it's just it was that one game against they won at Chelsea, right? They won 1-0 at Chelsea.
Yeah.
That's kind of maybe threw me off some of their other matches here, but that one is kind of an outlier. Yeah, they won 1-0 at Chelsea. So And then they had a scoreless draw against Crystal Palace when Crystal Palace didn't have Elise, they didn't have Eze, they had no one. It was that was maybe the ugliest match of the season so far in the Premier League. But
we'll say their opponents away from home have been like Man City, Arsenal, Man United. They've had a pretty tough. I mean, like this is their first
Liverpool.
I guess aside from Palace and the Chelsea result, this is like their first kind of like mid-table or lower tier table meeting. But yeah, I still don't believe them.
Yeah. Next game, maybe the biggest, a couple top 4 sides. I believe Aston Villa are still top 4 here.
They're 4th. Currently sitting on 29 points.
Okay, yeah. Aston Villa are home against Manchester City. Aston Villa, talking of, differences away from home and at home, Aston Villa are one of the best teams at home this season, just with what they've done. They are, but they're playing Manchester City, so a little different here. Plus 340 for Aston Villa to win. Manchester City are minus 135. The draw is plus 320. And they're expecting goals here. If you want over 2.5, you got to go to minus 190. But over 3.5 goals is plus 125. Under 3.5 is minus 155. If you really think there's not going to be goals, plus 150. The big news here is Rodri is suspended. Jack Grealish is suspended. Doku went off early in the match against Tottenham, and his status is unknown. So there's going to be some changes in the starting 11. This could be more of a lineup that we've seen in Champions League with Rico Lewis starting. Maybe Mateo Kovacic returns at 11 with Rodri suspended. So there are some changes. Then we'll see who's going to be on the wing because of Grealish and Doku are out. Maybe Bernardo Silva moves there. Maybe someone else. I don't know who exactly it would be because Mateus Nunes is also injured. So that's a situation right there. But I think we're kind of on the same page with this one. The odds are pretty extreme in Manchester City's favor. But if you look at some of the numbers, Aston Villa against the top sides, they just haven't looked like the elite team that we've seen against the non-top sides. If you remember correctly, that I think it was that at Liverpool game, 3-0, they just were outclassed the entire way. Now they're at home. Is that going to change? Do you think they can, even though it's a top side here, can Aston Villa bring their home form here against Aston Villa or Manchester City?
Yeah, good question. I think you pointed out the biggest piece in this matchup here for me, at least, is that Rodri is suspended. You look back at the 3 matches he was out earlier this season. I think they lost all 3 of those matches, or they. Maybe I think the first one was a League Cup match against Newcastle that they lost 1-0. They lost a match against Wolverhampton. I believe it was 2-1 at Wolves. And then they lost at Arsenal 1-0 when Rodri had caught that red card against, I think it was Nottingham Forest for the headbutt. But they struggle without him.
Chokehold.
Joey. Oh, right. Yeah, it was chokehold. Yeah. How could I forget? But regardless, they're just not the same team without him. He keeps, especially without KDB. That's not to say that I don't think that they can go in there and win this game. I think they can. Villa, however, been very, very good at home. 23 goals, leading the league in goals scored at home. They've given up only 5 as well. So, impressive numbers for them. I think I'm a bit too much of a coward to take a Villa at home moneyline bet. It's plus 340. I still think City are a much better team. And as you mentioned, Villa have yet to go out and beat one of those top teams like a Liverpool or a Manchester City or an Arsenal in an impressive sense. So However, the absence of Rodri makes me think, and given some of the results that we've recently seen from City, they gave up 3 goals over the weekend. They shipped 2 against Leipzig last week in the Champions League. They gave up that of course that all-time classic 4-4 against Chelsea. That was, I think, 2 weekends ago. So it's not like they haven't been shipping goals. I mean, those are good sides, good quality sides, but so is Villa. So for me, I looked at this and I saw Aston Villa over 1.5 goals is plus 165. I think it's a high enough number to take a chance on that one. And it's not like, as I mentioned, 23 goals in 7 games for Villa at home. City giving up a couple goals here and there. They're heading away. I think it's a bet worth taking a chance on.
Yeah, the games against top competition is the main worry for both of our bets here, because we're both going to be on Aston Villa here, and I'm just wondering if we're kind of ignoring the fact that Aston Villa just haven't looked like the same team against the elite teams, and that is the worry here. But without Rodri, maybe we'll be okay. So all these home games that they've had this season. They beat Everton. They beat Crystal Palace. They smashed Brighton. Brighton's been a little bit all over the place this season. 4-1 against West Ham, Luton Town, Fulham. Those are the teams. And then you look at some of their away matches, a 3-0 against Liverpool, where they were just outplayed a little bit. Look at some of the games last year against Manchester City. They did have a 1-1 in this spot last season. It was in September. It was earlier in the season. Steven Gerrard is manager, so I'm not really going to put too much into that one. But so Chris has Villa over 1.5 goals. I'm going not for it. I'm going close to it. I'm going Aston Villa double chance plus 105. We just saw Manchester City. They're giving up goals, I think is the thing here. And Unai Emery, I think that he's been fairly masterful at getting his team on the counter, getting Ollie Watkins good opportunities on the counter. We just saw what Tottenham did with, what did they have, 8 shots or 7 shots? I think they had 0.46, 0.49 expected goals against Manchester City, and they scored 3 times. I think the chances will come for Ollie Watkins. Maybe they're only going to finish with 7 or 8 shots or something like that. But I think that they're going to be converting some of those. They're going to be good opportunities. So, and then you throw in the absence of Rodri, and that's another problem for Manchester City. So, Aston Villa double chance plus 105. And wait, what are the odds in yours? I didn't write that down right, did I?
I was going to say that in a second. It's plus 165.
Okay, how is that minus 165? All right, yeah. Yeah. Chris has plus 165.
I mean, I'm actually surprised you went with the double chance bet here. This seems like an off-brand bet for you. I wrote
Come on.
I mean, I guess so. You're a Villa truther for sure, but I wrote down Man City double chance and over 3.5. That's plus 120. I did not, and I usually am like home team double chance. Let me bang that, but I'm a little weary of them. I guess a draw wouldn't be the most crazy thing here.
I believe in Unai. I put together a single game parlay, Aston Villa over 1.5 and double chance. It's plus 240. So
nice.
If you want to throw us together, it's a few more dollars. I'm thinking like a 2-2 kind of game here. Unless Manchester City just focus on defense instead of kind of getting into what they've been getting into, where it's just possession, lose the ball, other team goes on a counter and scores kind of a thing. That's kind of what's happened the last few matches, RB Leipzig included there. So unless they focus more on not doing that, not turning it over in bad situations, maybe getting back a little better for some of those players, maybe we could have on our hands a little more 1-0 type of match, lower scoring match, like the Arsenal matchup, kind of a little bit. But I'll ride with how Aston Villa have been scoring in their home matches, and ride with that one, because there's been goals in all these Aston Villa home matches.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't have the gumption like you have the gumption to take a Aston Villa double chance, but interesting bet either way.
I got all the gumption here. Huh. We got 2 games on Thursday. So it's 2 games on Tuesday. We didn't talk about a Tuesday game. Sorry. If you want a Tuesday bet, actually, we will have a Tuesday bet. I have a Tuesday bet in the team parlay. But then there's 6 games Wednesday, and then there's 2 games on Thursday. And we are talking about, speaking of Manchester City drawing against Tottenham, we're talking about Tottenham home against West Ham. They are minus 125 to win. West Ham are plus 295. And the draw is plus 320. You can get over 2.5 goals at minus 200. That seems like a big number. Minus 200 for over 2.5 goals.
That's a huge number for a
a West Ham match.
I mean, the both teams to score too is also kind of an interesting. I was like, wow, these odds are kind of wild. You don't see them typically like that.
Yeah. Over 3.5 is plus 125, and then under 3.5 is minus 155. Under 2.5 is plus 160. So West Ham's defense hasn't really been performing. There's been goals in their matches. Tottenham's matches obviously have also had goals. They do get Cristiano Romero back. So it'll either be Ben Davies or it will be Emerson starting next to Romero, unless for some reason Postecoglou does not want Romero back in there. I think that otherwise that's kind of it. Jared Bowen returned from his injury last match, though it did not help as West Ham drew Crystal Palace 1-1. But Tottenham are back home after, I think they had a couple away matches, if I remember correctly.
Well, they were home against Villa before the City match, and then they were away at Wolves.
Okay. Yeah, at Bournemouth, home against Villa, and then at Manchester City. But yeah, look at the line movement here. Going back about a week, they were minus 170, slowly dropping, minus 125. So that's a little interesting. I mean, West Ham were plus 400 to win. Now they're plus 295 to win. So the money's going in West Ham's favor, partly, probably mainly because of a lot of these absences and what Tottenham have done, but they just got 3 goals at Manchester City. So I don't know if I agree with the odds moving towards West Ham's favor here.
Yeah, definitely a little interesting. I think the return of Christian Romero will be a nice addition to a back line that's essentially been starting 4 outside backs.
More likely to get another red card or 2 yellows kind of thing?
I mean, I hope. Let's, for the sake of the quality match, hopefully not another red card. But it is a nice addition for them because, like I said, they were playing Ben Davies is not a natural center back. He's typically outside back, I believe. And then they were playing, remind me.
They're playing Emerson.
Emerson, yeah, as another center back, which is like crazy. So I think it'll be a good addition. I wanted, you mentioned this right away. My first reaction to this match was like, let me go bang an over. Let me go find an over that I can.
It's like, wait, it has to be 5.5 if I want anything.
Yeah. The over's like you got to find a 4.5 to get any sort of it. I'm like, 4.5 is a big amount of goals. For me, I can't, it's the year 2023. I'm going to say this, but the addition of Christian Romero has me taking Tottenham money line minus 125. They're at home. They've only gotten a point in the past 3 or 4 matches here, but they played City really tough. I think they're kind of starting to swing around. Yeah, that's all I can say here. I don't, West Ham's actually been playing really well too. So I like Spurs to win minus 125 at home.
I was actually going to say West Ham weren't playing really well, but
I mean they have been. They drew. I mean the draw at Palace, maybe not the best, or at home against Palace, maybe not the best result. But prior to that they beat Burnley, Nottingham Forest, no good quality opponents. But
yeah, I don't know. It was in my head that they weren't playing well. Then I pulled up those results and it's like, well, okay, Burnley, where they got, I think one of those bets, whatever you had ruined or maybe it ruined my bet. Whatever it was, they needed 86 90th minute goal. The Nottingham Forest game, they needed an 88th minute winner. Okay, lost at home against Everton. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They did have an okay start to the season, and then it kind of went off the rails a little bit. And then they played some easier matchups, and then they got some wins, and now they're here. So I guess it's a typical David Moyes season, I guess, if that's what you want to call it.
It's beat the bad teams, like do okay against like mid-table teams like Crystal Palace, and then
really struggle against the good ones.
Struggle against top sides.
Yeah, I'd agree with your bet here, minus 125. I mean, you could even do, if you want to get in the single game parlay territory, do like a single game parlay, Spurs to win and over 1.5 goals or over 2.5 goals total kind of a thing. I'm sure you could drop that down to, I know there's a lot of goals expected. So, I mean, you could still try and get around plus money kind of a thing. So just something there if you do think there are going to be goals. As for my bet, as Chris was saying, it's kind of hard to take certain sides unless you're on Tottenham money line here. I'm just going corners here. West Ham are a team that don't possess the ball a ton. I think Tottenham are at home. They're feeling pretty good. They're feeling pretty good about themselves after getting that draw at Manchester City. And I have a minus 0.75 corners in the first half, minus 110 on the odds. So this is what they need more than one corner. I just think that West Ham, they get corners off the counter, and I think they're one of the worst in the league in terms of corners allowed. We just talked about them a few days ago. I had Crystal Palace race to 5 corners. Unfortunately, Crystal Palace scored an equalizer in like the 50 or 60th minute. West Ham controlled the possession. They dominated the final 30 minutes or so. But guess what? Crystal Palace still had more corners than West Ham. The only problem was it was 3 corners to 2 corners. So I should have taken a different bet is kind of what I'm saying. Should have taken race to 3 corners, or I should have taken Crystal Palace to have more corners. Either way, that was last week. I'm going Tottenham minus 0.75 corners in the first half. I just think Tottenham are going to have more corners in the first half. I think they're a better team. I mean, given the injuries, given the absences on the back line, Van de Ven, Madison, they've been playing well. Outside of that Bournemouth match where that was their first time without Madison, I believe. Outside of that one, they've actually been playing well. Despite the loss to Villa, 3-3 against Manchester City. I think that maybe this is when it actually comes through. They get the 3 points without James Madison, without Van de Ven in the back line. They got Cristiano Romero back. So I'm with Chris here. I think they get the 3 points. I think they kind of put it on early on West Ham, which leads to corners.
Yeah, 2 things. West Ham are giving up the second most amount of corners behind Sheffield United. So pretty simple bet there. They're conceding almost about 7 a game, which is quite a few. And then that I think you're thinking of Wolves, the match right after that Chelsea result where they lost Van de Ven, they lost Romero from suspension. That was the match. So rather than Bournemouth. So
who did Bournemouth beat? What am I talking about?
I don't know, but maybe Bournemouth. Either way, but yeah, I think it makes sense. Definitely West Ham giving up. They're going to be bunkered in. I think Tottenham going to play that high line. That pasta clog.
You can do it. You can do it.
I'm just going to skip it over at this point.
Ange, Big Ange.
Yeah, Big Ange. That's all I call him. But I think at this point they're going to be fine. Like they're going to play that high line and they're going to put the press on and they're going to be able to rack up like 5, 6, 7 corners on them.
All right, sorry, I'm making this up. Bournemouth beat Newcastle 2-0. But I guess it backs up my point more because Tottenham didn't play terrible in the game against Wolverhampton, but they ended up losing that one 2-1. So that the Newcastle game was, I'm thinking in the same line. That was when they lost. They didn't have a forward in that game. They didn't have Isak. They didn't have Callum Wilson. And they looked pretty bad, and they lost 2-0 against Bournemouth. That's kind of why it was on my mind. Not the same team, but almost the same situation. All right, we got a team. Pasta.
God damn.
You got it.
How to get out of that one?
As I'm on the odds page, I just see Manchester City sitting here minus 140, Arsenal plus 330, Liverpool plus 400. Huh. Interesting.
You're talking about the futures here?
Yeah, talking about the winner of the Premier League. I don't know, minus 140. This back line, they look beatable here.
Okay. 5 of the last 6 seasons they've won the league. Even them at minus 40 would be pretty decent value, all things considered.
Would you consider taking Arsenal?
I would consider taking that plus 400 Liverpool bet. That's what I would do.
All right, that
They,
If you weren't a Liverpool fan.
I think so. Yeah, sure. I mean, they made some great additions. Declan Rice has been immense for them. I think I'd have to look at their fixtures to see if that goes like who do they have the next couple games, because I think we're going to see Liverpool's go up
Let's
as
check
they
out
have
our
Sheffield United. They have
check
I
out the
think Crystal
schedule
Palace,
future.
and then Arsenal's got Luton Town and Villa, and then someone else.
They have at
But
Aston Villa and at Liverpool. So that one.
yeah, so I think it might get, that might go down slightly.
Who's setting this schedule up where game week 18 is at Liverpool, game week 23 is home against Liverpool? Come on, we can do better than that.
It was like last season when I thought we had like Tottenham, Chelsea, like 3 matches within. I think it was like a
Well,
week,
they had the 2 legs in the FA Cup
yeah,
or something like
yeah,
that.
there's a ton of matches between those two, and then like right around January.
All right, well, maybe I take this back. So I'm just looking at Manchester City's schedule. After Aston Villa, they're at Luton, Crystal Palace, Everton, Sheffield United, home against Sheffield United, and at home against Burnley, Everton again. So, all
Yeah,
right, well, this might be minus 200 after those 10 game weeks, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right, team parlay time. Team parlay time. You have a single game parlay. You're going to be talking about this Chelsea Manchester United match, it's going on at the same time as Aston Villa Manchester City. But Chelsea Manchester United, what do you got?
I couldn't get on the show on a Monday and not talk about a matchup like this. We usually try to vary up our picks here, and evidenced by the fact that we talked about Fulham and Forest to start the show. But I wasn't going to get out here, and I wasn't going to, at least give this game a reference here. So Man United are just a story that I don't know how to tell. They haven't. I mean, it's such a mixed bag for them. They beat Everton, of course, a couple weeks ago, 3-0. They beat Luton Town 1-0. Last weekend they lost to Newcastle United in what was like, it said 1-0 on the score sheet, but it was a comprehensive defeat from Newcastle. I don't have a whole lot of belief in United in their current state. I think Chelsea, and I can't believe I'm saying this about Chelsea, but they've been playing a lot better than they had, at least last season, even in the first part of the season. They're scoring goals. That's not really the problem. They did come off 2 weeks, or I think this is a little over a week ago. They lost to Newcastle 4-1 at Newcastle. Tough place to play for anyone. They did beat Brighton this past weekend 3-2. Of course, got a good point against City a couple weeks ago. Beat Tottenham 4-1. And then a League Cup match that doesn't really matter for this purposes. But there's a ton of goals in pretty much all of their matches. United, aside from that United the Newcastle loss and beating Luton 1-0, they've been giving up goals too. So for me, I looked at the over right away, which is I like the over 2.5, but I think Chelsea can go to Old Trafford and at least take a point here. So I like Chelsea double chance, and the over 2.5. It is plus 140. I think I found it at. So yeah, I mean, you probably built it elsewhere, so it's a little bit different. But
I wrote the wrong odds there. It is plus 140.
Okay,
that's at least what we're going with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I this is a tough one just because all these Chelsea games have been high scoring.
Yeah.
I am just worried about the Eric Ten Hag style, and that his style is score first and then shut the game down, win 1-0 kind of a thing. So I think the game will need a Chelsea early goal, and then it'll be back and forth like Manchester City Chelsea. But I mean, at this point, Chelsea double chance, you can't hate on that against Manchester United, given how they've looked, given that their wins have been the 1-0 wins against Luton Town and Fulham. My side of the bet here. This one game is on Tuesday. Chris's game is on Wednesday. So this is actually the first bet of our show. So hopefully you watched all of our show here. I got Wolverhampton over 1.5 goals at minus 110. They're home against Burnley. And Burnley, I wonder if the odds, actually, I'm going to pull up the odds on Burnley here just because I want to see for myself if the odds have actually moved because Burnley finally got this big win. I think the media all wanted Burnley to get this win, and all right, well, the odds haven't changed, so never mind. Doesn't the odds have actually a little bit? Okay, so November 26th, about a week ago, Wolverhampton were minus 135. Now they're down to minus 115 to win. So maybe a little bit here. Maybe that's against Wolverhampton, maybe not. But so Burnley. Big win against Sheffield United. We talked about that one last week. I think we both kind of had the wrong idea. It was more of Paul Heckingbottom's done. Sheffield United are done in their current situation. We kind of thought they had some life, but it didn't happen for them. So I'm not sure how much you put in that for Burnley. Now they're away from home. Now they don't have their best center back in Jordan Beyer because he's suspended, and they've already been one of the worst defenses in the league outside of Sheffield United. They just got their first clean sheet against Sheffield United. Then you got Wolverhampton. They get a couple guys back. And so they get João Gomez and they get Mario Lemina back from suspension. So 2 guys in the midfield. They're back. So on a short week, it's usually nice when you get a couple your regular players back in their starting 11. Also, Wolverhampton at home have been pretty good this season. Their last 4 home matches, they've taken points against Manchester City. They beat at Manchester City. That was the infamous. Was that the chokehold game? Maybe it wasn't the chokehold game. It was just a Wolverhampton win, I guess.
I thought that was Nottingham Forest.
Okay, yeah, you're right. You're right. They got a point against Aston Villa, point against Newcastle. They beat Tottenham, as we just talked about as well. So I just think Wolverhampton are at home. They got some guys back. They're going against a bad back line without their best center back. Over 1.5 goals is minus 110. Pretty good odds. So you put that with Chris's Chelsea double chance with over 2.5 goals. That is plus 140. Put that with Wolverhampton over 1.5 goals. We're at plus 358 odds. We got those odds off of DraftKings as well. So, Chris, I guess what do you think about Wolverhampton here, home against Burnley?
Yeah, the 5-0 win over Sheffield United did feel a little bit weird, but it was mostly mad. I think I had both teams. I had some sort of both teams to score, maybe, or an over.
You had both teams to score, and it was 5-0 because Ali McBurney
got sent off. Right, he's public enemy number 1 for me right now.
Killed your bet.
He's ruined 2 of my bets in like as many weeks. So I'm not going to give any more airtime to Ali right now.
Yeah.
But no, this makes sense. The Burnley, over 1.5 goals against Burnley. That seems kind of like a no-brainer. They've been shipping a ton of goals this season, so I'm for it. But I am like, do they now have a newfound confidence that they didn't have now that they've like kind of gotten a good result there?
No, they don't. They don't.
Okay, that's fine. Let's reevaluate on Thursday.
No, we can reevaluate on Wednesday. Yeah, speaking of Thursday, I guess we gotta do game week 16. So we'll be back in a few days, and we'll be back with up a few bucks, I guess you could say. But here's the cheat sheet for game week 15 in the Premier League. Pressers constantly coming out. We have rotowire.com/soccer trials, a 48-hour trial. Looks like the odds have moved up a little bit here. Arsenal and Liverpool both more than 80% chances to win at Luton Town and Sheffield United, respectively. Any other games you want to touch on here? As we kind of talked about, it seemed like we talked about a little bit about every team. We kind of like threw little pieces in there, but anything else? Brighton home against Brentford, Crystal Palace home against Bournemouth there.
The Newcastle-Everton match is going to be interesting. Newcastle, of course, heading to Goodison. Everton kind of having some confidence after that recent result, and their current situation. I think that one's going to be interesting to watch at the very least.
I do have a bet on that one. You just have to check out my article coming out Tuesday morning at rotowire.com/soccer. So check that out. Also, you can check out Chris at CHROwen8 on Twitter. I'm at RotoZdroik, and follow RotoWire Soccer on Twitter because all of our stuff comes out on that Twitter account, and you get a lot of good information there. rotowire.com/soccer trial, free 48-hour trial. Please like and subscribe. Thumbs up to this video, even if you only watch a second of it. And the second, it happens to be the 40-minute mark here. Chris, thanks for the show. We'll see everyone later in the week. Good luck on your bets, and hopefully we'll be up a few more dollars come Thursday.
Thanks, Adam.